Aries.
Hello Aries, this is your astrological forecast for June 2016. And so how has May been working out for you with 5 retrogrades going on? So some of you, a lot of you, can have felt how things have been slowing down a little bit, but all for a higher purpose, of course. Mercury retrograde, then we got Mars, we got Jupiter, we got Saturn, and now here in June also there will be Neptune and Pluto as well, so there's a lot going on here. But as we start off in June, Mercury will now be going direct, picking up speed again. It retrograded back into your 2nd house, so it gave you a little bit more of an extended time to work over your finances, to see how you could actually wrap up loose ends and perfect this area, and take a look at maybe something that you have overlooked earlier. So retrogrades are good for something. As long as you didn't sign any contracts that might come back to bite you in the you-know-where, then all is good, right? But this month you have the full focus in your 3rd house. This has to do with siblings for the most part, how you interact with siblings. Maybe you will be catching up, having some reunions or so forth, but it's also the area of your closer community, your neighborhood, neighbors, and so forth, and anything that has to do with speaking, communications, presentations, maybe even traveling short distance trips, like little road trips out of town, maybe just for a day or 2. June is absolutely set for that. Now, in this area of your 3rd house in communication, we have the Sun. Mercury will be joining with us in here in June. And then, of course, we have Venus and then the new moon there on June 4th. And the new moon is when we put down our intentions. That's the birthing of new energy and our hopes and dreams that we put out as goals. So pay attention, circle that on your calendar, and make sure that you write that abundance check to yourself. If you are doing that, then that is the day for it. That new moon will hit at 14 degrees in Gemini. So if you have any planets close to 14 degrees, the new moon will be aspecting off of it. Having the Sun in this area of your 3rd house, in the sign of Gemini, it's going to be focused on communication. How you communicate, what you communicate. Are you getting your points clearly across to whoever is listening? This is really, really important. So anything verbally or also in a written form, you might find yourself writing more if you are into that kind of thing. So having Venus here too, which is creativity, it's passion, it's love. You might find yourself communicating a whole lot more on the topic of love or whatever it is that you find yourself passionate into. It's also money, as Venus rules money too. You might find yourself talking a little bit more about it, or doing some research, looking into areas how you might grow that area. That would be a good way to use Venus. And it could also be you using money now on little road trips, getting out of town and having fun in that matter. Mars right now retrograding in your 8th house, which has to do with shared resources. Money that you have with your significant other, or it may be you just now allowing Mars to support you to look into whatever savings you have, investments, or maybe having a good communication with a stockbroker, somebody who could actually give you a little bit more insight as to how this area can come to behoove you in the long run. When we have this retrograde, which is an extended time in this area, then we want to know that Mars is looking out for you. Now Mars will be retrograde to that of June 29th, so you have the full month to do your investigation and your research here in this area. When it comes to men in your life, Mars being retrograde, well, maybe they are working a little bit backwards too. So you can expect maybe little delays or a little touch and go when it comes to communication. And if so, then you just know that it is Mars right now that's taking that effect. But it will pick up speed next month when we get into July, and then it will be moving, looking to move into your 9th house, which is really going to be expanding a big new field for you. Jupiter, now direct ever since May 9th, is looking good. Jupiter in your chart here, Aries, is in your 6th house, and this is where it slowed down in January. Now that it's going to pick up speed slowly but surely, you're going to see how your day-to-day routines are going to be picking up speed. They're going to be expanding on you. You'll be looking at your diets more. Suddenly your enthusiasm is coming back alive, which Jupiter is all about, that enthusiastic energy, right? And you might also find that you're a little bit more generous with yourself as well, since Jupiter also rules abundance. Neptune, well, Saturn, let's talk about Saturn first. Saturn is retrograde to that of August 13th. Also in your house here of the 9th house, which has to do with research. It has to do with people in faraway locations. You might have felt that school and exams might have been a little bit more under pressure for you. It's a long retrograde, so it slows you down so that you won't be speeding too quickly ahead. It allows you to look back over whatever research track you have, just to make sure that you're getting all the nitty-gritty little important details with you, so that when Saturn moves direct there in August, things will open up for you and you will have the oomph that you're going to need when you're powering up, not just to conclude the journey of the transit in the 9th house, but preparing yourself for your career. More on that later on, and it's not quite yet, but this is what you're doing, whether you're conscious of it or not, but you're laying down bricks in your foundation of where you want to see new doors open up down the road in a year and a half from now. So this retrograde can work for you. Then we have Uranus. Uranus is in your 1st house, so that is your personality. For now, it's still moving direct, so that is good. Changes in your personality has been taking place slowly but surely. Sometimes it's come like a lightning bolt out of the blue, and oh my God, here you find yourself doing things that you would never have dreamt years ago that you would be doing. But that's the freshness. It's also the uniqueness of Uranus that really opens up our mind like a funnel, taking down full downloads of information. So it's more like you exploring and redefining yourself. And when we really work with Uranus, we love it because it brings always that dimension of the unexpected. Neptune is retrograde in your 12th house, and when I go like that, it's your subconsciousness. So you could come to see how your hopes and dreams, which Neptune's really rule, as along with your vision and the things that you want, you might find that maybe a few of the visions you had on the horizon might be slowing down or even disappearing on that. And we always love to have those visions on the horizon that keeps pulling us forward. We know where we're heading. We know what we're aiming for. But when it disappears, sometimes we might just feel like in the middle of nowhere. Now, if this is or happens to become your experience, Aries, then just know where it's coming from. It's just passing through, and even this shall pass when Neptune goes direct down the road, not before November 20th though. So we've got a long time here where Neptune is just going to be working subconsciously. Pluto is still in your 10th house for career. Some of you, especially those of you born in the first half of your sign, you've already gone through this transformation. For the rest of you, you're still waiting for it to happen. And when we talk about transformation, we're talking about a full transformation of your career path. So now when Pluto is retrograde to September 26th, it's taking a little step back. So you're not really pushing ahead forward too much right now. And I think that is good. You might even feel that the people upstairs there at work, they might also have a little bit more of a low-key So if you're looking for that promotion, it might just drag a little bit. Don't expect too much right now, but it is a time to really focus on what you're doing and what you're achieving, because they're watching, you know, your boss, supervisor, and whatnot. So expect doors to open up a little bit later in the year for that. But as we start out the month here, Aries, on the 1st, we have the Sun, and then we also have Venus. They are squaring off on Neptune. Neptune in your 12th, the Sun and Venus here nearly conjunct there in the 3rd house, has to do with how you're communicating and what you're listening to. So just be a little careful, I'd like to say, for paying attention that there's no miscommunications. This could easily happen when Neptune is afflicted, and of course Neptune being retrograde too kind of gives a little bit of a double whammy. So you might be hearing something that you're hoping that you're hearing rather than actually hearing what is being said. This is how miscommunications can happen. And on the 3rd, the Sun and Venus will be opposing Saturn. So if there is a miscommunication there on the 1st, you might be dealing with it on the 3rd, trying to get things back on track. So if anything, especially important things, and you're a little bit in doubt if you really heard correctly, don't be afraid to validate and verify, okay? Then on the 9th, we have Mercury, again, which rules communication, is now opposing Mars. So you might feel like you're drawn between a rock and a hard place. You might be needed both here and there at the same time. Could be a little stressful. And so just make sure, though, that your mind doesn't go off in both directions, just so that at least you have good direction in what you're doing. This opposition will be between the 2nd and the 8th house, so it could be pertaining to money matters on the 9th. Then things are looking up here on the 12th, also on the 14th, first by Venus. Love or money coming in a beautiful aspect there to Uranus. So that could be unexpected news coming in, Aries. And Venus here being in your 3rd house, Uranus in the 1st house. So there's news, a phone call, message, text, or something coming to you about this money matter, but it could also be a notification or a little love letter coming your way. And the Sun, too, is from the 3rd house to Uranus in the 1st. So between the 12th and the 14th, just expect these to be wonderful days for you. And as you can see, until then, the first 10 days of the month might be a little trying here in June due to all the retrogrades, due to the aspects of squares and oppositions. So we have those phases throughout the year too, where we're up against that invisible wall of challenges. But then the beautiful break, 12th to 14th, is good because there's more challenges coming up here in June. On the 17th, we have Saturn and Neptune. They're square. Saturn is all about authority, our own inner authority, but it could also be external, such as the government, national governments. It could also be a worldwide situation as well, if we look at it that way. And Neptune here in square, well, both of them being retrograde too. It looks like there could be, on a personal level, some unfinished business, unfinished karma that might come up. This gives you, between the 17th and the 20th, the ability to work through, all right? So make sure that you make the most out of it. Now, on a world scale, you could say between the 17th and 20th, might be a little trying too, because not only is there illusions here, which is Neptune, but Saturn wanting to rule, that are rubbing off against each other, but communications are difficult too. On the 20th, with Mercury opposing Saturn and also squaring off on Neptune, so it's all that same energy. I'm certain there's going to be some political things or international news hitting on these 3 days. So yeah, let us all pay attention to it, but in our own personal lives, just be sure that whatever you're communicating or agreeing to, agreements are very important here because Mercury and Saturn is involved. Make sure that it's fair, make sure it's balanced, make sure that you're looking at the other person's side to it, so that it can balance well, that will avoid conflicts down the road. But some of this, here between the 17th and the 20th, I feel can also be somewhat connected to what took place on the 1st and 3rd. So look at any kind of connection dots for that. But then we're ending the month on a better note. Jupiter now moving direct, which is bringing back up our hopes and our dreams and expansion of enthusiasm and so forth, now coming in beautiful and aligned to Pluto on the 26th. Pluto has to do with our personal transformations. For you, Pluto being in the 10th house, that is your career. Jupiter coming from the 6th house, which has to do with co-workers too and the work that you perform. Something there is coming together beautifully alongside with Venus and Neptune on the 27th. So you've got 2 days there where news is suddenly going to start flowing again. And this is after a month where you've pretty much had to listen to the music and do the dance, right? But let's talk about the full moon too here at Aries. That is going to be on the 20th here of June. 29 degrees, the very last degree there in Sagittarius. So it's right on the cusp between the 9th house and the 10th house for you. So this is going to illuminate the area of being in touch with, hearing from, interacting with foreign people or people in distances away from you. But it could also be if you're expecting something as far as publishing goes, your visas, that kind of thing, or maybe it's a lawsuit come to some conclusion. Well, then the 20th should really prove that that can bring some kind of conclusion to you. But the moon is also going to bleed over into your career house there within those first few hours of that full moon, and it will illuminate it there on the 21st as well. So listen here, Aries, this is what we have for you in June, and I will see you there in July. But in the meanwhile, go listen to your tarot scopes for June as well. Have a good one. Bye now.